نستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. عمر. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام. عمر. إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن خير الكلام كلام الله، وأحسن هدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. On this Sunday, November 11th, 646, 2018, which agrees with the Hijri calendar, which is now the third night of Rabi' al-Awwal. As we're now into the new month of the Hijri calendar, which is called Rabi' al-Awwal. Rabi' al-Awwal. Rabi' al-Awwal, which is now the third night of on the Hijri calendar, it agrees with the year 1440 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. We continue in Kitaab At-Tawheed, and we stopped at the ayah of Ayatul Kursi. As we continue in the chapter of what they call Bab al-Shafa'ah, the chapter of the intercession. The affair of the intercession, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, we've seen ayat in which we started covering the ayat discussing the matter of the shafa'ah, the intercession of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. For the shafa'ah, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, as we discussed, is something that's established and it is known in Kitaab and Sunnah. But the shafa'ah, Allah Ta'ala affirms, which will only be for certain people, and at the same time what is negated from others. And from them is the kuffar, or the people of shirk and polytheism. We started discussing the ayah which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah Ta'ala. The ayah which is called Ayatul Kursi. Ayatul Kursi, as we know, that comes in the Sahih, on the authority of Ubay ibn Ka'b, that the Messenger of Allah asked him, what is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah? To the end of the hadith, until the Messenger of Allah has said to Ubay ibn Ka'b, he says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِ بِيَدِهِ إِنَّ لَهُ لِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن تُقَدِّسُ الْمَلَكِ عِنْدَ سَاقِ الْعَرْشِ. If you'll find in the end of the hadith, the Messenger of Allah has said, I swear by the one whose soul Muhammad is in his hand, he said, verily this surah, that it has a lisan wa shafatayn, that it has a tongue and it has two lips, that glorifies the angel by the saq al-arsh. He said that glorified the angel, it glorifies that tuqaddis al-malik 'inda al-arsh. So that it glorifies the angel by the saq al-arsh, by the legs of the throne of Allah Ta'ala. How the kayfiyah of that, Allahu A'lam. How is that? Allah knows best. However, we know the minhaj of Ahl Sunnah, نقول نمرها كما جاءت دون أن نستفسر عن الكيف. We narrate it as it came, without negation, and without asking how it is. We keep it and narrate it as it came. The kayfiyah, or how it is, Allahu A'lam. But as long as the authentic narration has affirmed it, we narrate it and believe in it firmly. We discussed Ayatul Kursi and why this ayah in the book of Allah is considered the greatest ayah in the book of Allah Ta'ala. We discussed by saying number one, we stopped at the part where it talks about Al-Hayy, that Allah Ta'ala is the ever-living, meaning that Allah Ta'ala is described for being Al-Awwal laysa qablahu shay, wa Al-Akhiru alladhi laysa ba'dahu shay. That Allah Ta'ala is complete in His life, ever-living, meaning that Allah Ta'ala has no beginning and He has no ending. That Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is described with Azaliyya Abadiyya. We already talked about why this ayah is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah, starting with the first part of the ayah, which is the kalima, lafz al-jalala, Allah. We talked about Allah and what it contains of all the categories of Tawheed. Then we talked about La ilaha illallah and what it contains of refutations against the groups that have deviated in this affair, such as the mushrikeen and the mulhideen or the malahida, those who are upon idolatry and polytheism. As the word La ilaha refutes and is a rebuttal against the mushrikeen. As we said last class, illallah is a refutation against the atheists. Also, like we said, Ya ma'ashal ikhwa, as now, as we go on in Ayatul Kursi, that Allah Ta'ala says, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayy. He is the ever-living. We notice that this has been affirmed in the book of Allah Ta'ala, that Allah is the first, nothing is before Him. Meaning He's the last, meaning there's nothing after Him. For example, we know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that if one says this dua before he goes to bed, he dies upon the fitrah. And this is affirming the complete everlasting life of Allah Ta'ala, as the Prophet ﷺ highly emphasized that one make this dua before he goes to bed at night. That the Prophet ﷺ that says, Man awa ila firashi, faqal, Allahumma rabba as-samawati wal-ard, rabba kulli shay, faliq al-habbi wal-nawa, munzil al-tawrati wal-injili wal-Qur'an al-azim. أعوذ بك من شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها أنت الأول فليس قبلك شيء وأنت الآخر فليس بعدك شيء وأنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء وأنت الباطن فليس دونك شيء اقضي عن الدين وأغنني من الفقر. حتى قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من دعا بهذا الدعاء فمات وهو نائم مات على الفطرة. As we know that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, من أوى إلى فراشه فدعا بهذا الدعاء اللهم رب السماوات والأرض ورب كل شيء. O Lord of the seven heavens, O رب السماوات والأرض, the Lord of the seven heavens and the earth, and the Lord of everything. اللهم رب السماوات والأرض ورب كل شيء, the Lord of everything. فالق الحب والنوى, the one who opens or split open the nawa, meaning the seed of the date, and all the other seeds in which Allah Ta'ala by His permission allows those plants to grow. The one who splits the seed, فالق الحب والنوى, the one who descended the Torah and the Injil and the tremendous Quran. أعوذ بك من شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها. This is the point of reference in the hadith. أنت الأول فليس قبلك شيء وأنت الآخر فليس بعدك شيء وأنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء وأنت الباطن فليس دونك شيء. اقضي عن الدين وأغنني من الفقر. As it says in the hadith, he says that you are the first, nothing is before you. You are the last, nothing is after you. You are the most high, nothing is above you. And you are the closest, nothing is closer than you. اقضي عن الدين وأغنني من الفقر. He says, أغنني من الدين, excuse me. He says, اقضي عن الدين وأغنني من الفقر. Remove from me my duyun, remove from me my debts, and enrich me from poverty. The point of reference in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that you are the first, nothing is what? Before you. You are the last, nothing is what? After you. You are the most high, nothing is above you. You are the closest, nothing is closest than you. So Allah Ta'ala, He is above, but at the same time He is the closest. Closest as far as His essence? No. Closest as far as in His ilm, and in the knowledge and Him being all seeing and all hearing. But He, Allah Ta'ala, is a what? That Allah Ta'ala is above the arsh. He is above the what? He's above the throne. The point of this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever makes this dua before he goes to bed at night, that he will die upon the fitrah. He will die in a state of the natural disposition, which is Tawheed. Firmly believing in it, understanding its meanings, and also implementing it before he goes to sleep at night. If he dies, he'll die in the state of the fitrah. Not only that, but making wudu before he goes to bed and making this dua. So the message of Allah had mentioned and said that you are the first, nothing is before you. You are the last, nothing is after you. This is describing Allah Ta'ala for absolute perfect what? Life. If you go back to the ayat al-Kursi, you'll notice that Allah Ta'ala says He is al-Hayy. Meaning that Allah Ta'ala is described with the sifa al-Azaliyya wal-Abadiyya. That Allah Ta'ala is Azali Abadi. Azali meaning that He has no beginning. Abadi meaning He's eternal. There's no ending. That He's eternal, Ta'ala. And we know that this has been affirmed in the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, as we just said in the dua. And also that Allah is Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru. That He is also the first and He is the what? He is the last. Meaning the last meaning nothing after Him. Meaning that that doesn't mean He doesn't have any ending. No. Meaning there's nothing after Him. Ta'ala. Meaning that everything that's created has a beginning and it has a what? It has an ending. For Allah Ta'ala is described with these descriptions of being the first, not having a beginning, being eternal, He has no ending, and that Allah is also the most high, and that He is the closest. Closest in His knowledge, and closest in His awareness, and closest in His hearing, and closest in His seeing everything. Ta'ala. Is Allah Ta'ala closest to us in His essence? La. Rather, He is close in all those affairs we just described. Rather, Allah Ta'ala's knowledge is more closer to us than your partner or your friend being right next to you. Because Allah Ta'ala knows and has knowledge about what's going with you, which you probably don't even know what's going on with yourself. That knowledge is the most greatest of knowledge, to show that He is the closest. And His awareness and His knowledge to the point where Allah subhanahu Jalla fil ula knows what's taking place with you probably don't even know what's going on within yourself. If that knowledge is not al-qurb, absolute complete knowledge, then what is? So that knowledge is the knowledge of full, absolute complete knowledge, awareness, sight, seeing, and all those other affairs. But at the same time, His essence, He is above the arsh tabaraka wa ta'ala. So we say, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, that the word al-hayy, as we talked about and discussed last class, al-hayy, meaning that He's first, He is the last, and also likewise, you'll find that in what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah described, of why this ayah is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah, based upon the fact that it contains all the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala's essence. All of them. And not only all of them, but meaning that the characteristics that He Ta'ala has of His essence is complete in every aspect. Meaning, from those characteristics as we talked about of Allah, meaning Tawheed al-Asma wa-Sifat, that we talked about, it breaks down to two categories. We said that the first category is the category of Allah Ta'ala's essence. Allah Ta'ala's essence meaning that there is لا تزال ولا يكن وقت من الأوقات إلا وإن الله تعالى تتصف بهذه الصفات ولا يتخلف شيء أو لا تتخلف واحدة من هذه الصفات طرفة عين ولم يزال ولا يزال ربنا تبارك وتعالى يتصف بهذه الصفات ولا تنفك عنه واحدة من هذه الصفات طرفة عين. That Allah Ta'ala the meaning of as-sifat al-dhatiyya, the characteristic of Allah's essence, the meaning of it is that Allah always and will continue to have these characteristics. Subhanahu jalla fil ula. Meaning that Allah's tabarak wa ta'ala's characteristic, for example, of wisdom, or domination, or power, or being all-seeing, or all-hearing, or all-capable, or all-knowledgeable, or all-aware. Is there a time where, from the times there are, except that Allah, one of these characteristics goes away from Allah? La. If one of these characteristics, and other than that, from the other character, for example, Izzah, or Jalal, or being all dominant, and all powerful, and almighty. Is there a time from the times they are, except that Allah does not have these characteristics? La. Allah will always continue. And He will never cease tabarak wa ta'ala except to have these characteristics. That's the meaning of His characteristics, the characteristics of His essence. Allah is always all-seeing. Allah is always all-hearing. Allah is always all-capable. He is always the owner of everything. He is always the all-dominant. He is always the all-powerful. He's always all-wise, the all-knowledgeable, the all-capable. All those characteristics are from صفات من صفاته الذاتية. وهذه الصفات لا تنفك عنه جل في العلا طرفة عين. لم يزل ولا يزال متصفا بهذه الصفات. صفة العلم وصفة القدرة وصفة العزة وصفة الجلال وصفة الحكمة وصفة القدرة وصفة السمع وصفة البصر وغير ذلك. And other than that, all those characteristics Allah will always continue to have. You'll find that Ahl Ilm mentioned that if there was some type of discrepancy or incompleteness in one of these two characteristics, that would necessitate that there was incompleteness in the characteristic of al-haya, of life. For the fact that if Allah, in which He is not, rather He's complete, if there was some discrepancy in His knowledge, or discrepancy in His wisdom, or discrepancy in His capability, tabarak wa ta'ala, or other than what we mentioned, that would necessitate there was some discrepancy in His what? In His everlasting life. Rather, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is complete in His life, tabarak wa ta'ala, as we said, which necessitates that all the other characteristics of His essence likewise are what? Complete. As we talked about, أن الصفة تابعة للموصوف, that a characteristic follows behind the essence. It follows behind what? The essence. And the صفة تابعة للموصوف. As it pertains to Allah, all of His characteristics follows behind His essence, meaning that all the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala are complete, which necessitate His essence and His life likewise are complete. All of them are what? Complete. That's the reason why we said the word hay, like we said, it contains all the characteristic of Allah's essence. All of them. From all the different examples that we gave. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? When Allah Ta'ala now goes on to talk about Huwa al-Hayyul Qayyum. Al-Qayyum. Al-Qayyum ya ma'ash al-Ikhwa. That Allah Ta'ala is qa'imun bi dhatihi wa qa'imun ala ghayrih muqimun li ghayrih. That Allah Ta'ala, He is al-Hayyul Qayyum. Meaning that Allah Ta'ala, that He is qa'imun bi nafsih. Meaning that Allah Ta'ala, that He's ever living, and also likewise He is all self-sufficient. Qayyum means qa'imun bi dhatihi. That He Ta'ala, when He stands, when we say that He subhanahu wa ta'ala qa'imun bi dhatihi, meaning He is self-sufficient in Himself. Self-sufficient in Himself, where He does the affairs by His own will. And He does actions by His own will. The word qayyum talks about all the characteristics of Allah's actions. يتضمن جميع صفات الله تبارك وتعالى الفعلية الاختيارية. The word qayyum necessitates all of the characteristics of Allah that are from His actions that are done by His what? By His choice تبارك وتعالى. Not only those actions that He does by His own will, but also the actions that aid the creation. Both. So He's قائم بذاته يعني مستغن عن غيره. مستغن عن غيره غناء ذاتي. That Allah Ta'ala, that He does actions by His own will, and He also does actions for the creation to aid them. Both. So that's the meaning of what? Al-Qayyum. قائم بذاته. قائم لغيره ومقيم لغيره. That He Ta'ala does actions in aiding the creation, and He also does actions by His own will. And Allah Ta'ala is self-sufficient, and He does not need anything. Allah Ta'ala has the characteristic, as we know, of self-sufficiency. What they call ghina. Ghinan dhati. Ghina'un dhatiyun mutlaq. That Allah Ta'ala has the characteristic of ghina. Absolute self-sufficiency and being all rich and free from any wants or needs. Which this characteristic is initially from His essence. And also likewise, it is perfect in every aspect. For Allah Ta'ala, having the word qayyum, as we said, contains all the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala's actions. What are from those actions, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa? Such as Sifat al-Istiwa, Allah Ta'ala rising above the arsh, Allah Ta'ala descending or ascending, or that Allah coming on the day of resurrection, and also speech. Also speech. Also the love of Allah Ta'ala, which we'll discuss inshallah. Even though they have some characteristics, they have some details in it. But those characteristics of anger and love, or what have you, or being amazed, or amazement, or laughter, and all those other characteristics. Now, as we believe that Allah Ta'ala laughs, and we believe that Allah Ta'ala becomes angry, and we believe that Allah Ta'ala rejoices and He's amazed. You see, that's what they call Sifat al-Ajab. And that Allah Ta'ala, He also is amazed at His ibad of those who, I don't want to get into that right now, but at any rate, just keep in consideration the characteristic of Allah Ta'ala's actions are all under the characteristic of qayyum. From ascension and descension and coming on the day of resurrection and ascension above the arsh and descending every night and coming on in the word majid, coming on the day of resurrection. All of those are the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala's actions, and He does it when He wills. All of them are connected with His mashi'ah. That Allah Ta'ala, for example, of love, of laughter, they happen from one time to the next. As we talked about these characteristics, they happen at one time to the next. When the reason is there, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala does the action at that particular time. For example, the anger of Allah Ta'ala, for example, descends upon the mushrik, upon the disbeliever, or the one who commits shirk with Him. At a particular time with the abd, or the servant, that he makes tawbah. And he also, and he makes tawbah, and he returns back to the truth, then the characteristic of rida, of Allah being pleased, and Allah being content with the abd, happens at that time when he became Muslim. Before that, He was, for example, he was under the anger of Allah, let's just say. He was under the anger of Allah being upon disbelief and kufr. When he became Muslim and he made tawbah, then Allah Ta'ala did what? Became pleased with the abd when the time came. So he was pleased with him in which he did that particular action. Those characteristics have a little bit of details in them. But it is part of his actions because it's connected with his will when he does it when he wills Ta'ala. But just to keep it simple, the characteristics of what we mentioned, they are far from qayyum. This is descension, ascension, coming on the day of resurrection, and the other characteristics which we'll mention later. Inshallah, that has some details in it, such as anger, and such as dahik, or laughter, or amazement, to the end. Those characteristics are all part of Allah Ta'ala's complete characteristic of qayyum. So notice that the characteristics of Allah that's pertaining to His essence and the characteristics of Allah that's pertaining to His actions are all mentioned in the surah. Both. So they're all speaking about His sifat al-dhatiyya along with Allah Ta'ala as-sifat al-fi'liyya. And all the actions of Allah, like we said, are connected with His will when He does it when He wills. And it happens from one time to the what? To the next. Those characteristics is an action that Allah does when He wills. For example, if you notice in the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah Ta'ala ينزل إلى السماء الدنيا كل ليلة في ثلث الليل الآخر ينزل ربنا تعالى إلى السماء الدنيا. The Prophet ﷺ said at a time based upon the revelation of what Allah revealed to him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what? Descends every night to the lowest part of the heaven, and He does this at a specific time. Then the message of Allah says that this, it also likewise, it continues like this until the time of Fajr. Then Allah Ta'ala what? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the characteristic of nuzul, of descension, and it stops. But Allah descends at a particular time, which is in the last third part of the night. And we know that Allah Ta'ala says a speech also at that particular time. هل من مستغفر فأغفر له وهل من سائل فأعطيه وهل من داع فأستجيب له. As we know that Allah Ta'ala descends at the last part of the third part of the night. Every night the Messenger of Allah gave a time for it. Meaning before that time, that action did not happen. But when the Messenger of Allah said it for, which Allah revealed to him, is when that action happened. The action of dissension took place at the last third part of the night. And before that, it did not what? It did not take place. Why? Because the Messenger of Allah set the time for when it happens. It happens when? في ثلث الليل الآخر, the third part of the night. So that action of dissension takes place in that particular time. And then that action takes place, the Prophet ﷺ says that it happens from one time to the next at a particular time in which the Messenger of Allah made clear. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That type of dissension, is it a dissension that we can understand? No, it is not a dissension that we can what? Understand, except the general meaning. The general meaning, we accept it, which is al-ma'na al-am. The general meaning, we affirm it, and we do not distort the meaning by it says it means the mercy of Allah, or it means that the angels descend. No, it's not Allah that descends, it's His mercy. Or no, it's not Allah that descends, it's His angel. Or it's not Allah that descends, it's His power. You'll find that Ahl Ilm refute all this. How is it that the mercy of Allah only descends at the third part of the night? The mercy of Allah descends upon every time. Not just in the third part of the night. The Messenger of Allah clearly bounded it to when this action takes place in the third part of the night. As for the mercy of Allah, it descends in the third part of the night and other than that. So it's not talking about Allah's mercy. It's talking about Allah Himself. And likewise, similar to that, they say, no, it's the angels that descend. It's not Allah. The angels can descend at the time likewise, during the day and during the night. And they descend at a certain time, and it's other than the third part of the night. So the hadith here is talking about Allah, not the angels. Because the angels descend at a certain part and a certain time of the night, and in the evening and in the morning. So it's not talking about the angels either. Nor is it talking about the command of Allah. The command of Allah likewise descends in the night and the day. This is talking about one action that takes place specifically at a specific time, which is the characteristic of Allah's descension. He descends every night. Like I said, everyone, is it a descension of the human being? La. Absolutely not. It's a descension of what we understand, which is the general meaning. But like we talked about before, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, the descension of Allah Ta'ala, you cannot fathom, nor can you begin to comprehend. Why? We talked about, like we said, Al-Kalam fi Sifat far'un an kalami fi Dhat yuhtada fihi hadwa. There's a qa'idah that Shaykh al-Islam used to repeat. He used to say this in a lot of his refutations, especially in the aspect of al-Asma wa-Sifat. He used to say, he says, Al-Kalam fi Sifat far'un an al-Kalami fi Dhat yuhtada fihi hadwa. He said that Kalam fi Sifat, that speaking about the characteristics of Allah, is a branch of talking about His essence. They emulate each other. What do we mean by that? Meaning that if you cannot understand Allah's essence, it is for all the more reason that you will not understand His what? His actions or His characteristics. Like we talked about before, you cannot even comprehend something that can hear everything. That's way beyond your comprehension. Because can you imagine in your mind something that can hear everything in the heavens and the earth simultaneously? Can you imagine that? Can you comprehend it? Can you fathom it? Can you understand it? Not only does Allah hear everything in the heavens and the earth at the same time, Allah Ta'ala also understands the different languages of the people simultaneously at the same time. And Allah also knows their needs at the same time. And He also understands their languages at the same time. And Allah also understands the different types of requests that is done at the same time. Can your mind comprehend that? Can it or not? Can you understand all the different languages at the same time? Can you hear everything and see everything in the heavens at the same time? Can your mind comprehend something that can also address the needs of all of the creation at the same time? Understand all their languages and all their needs. Your mind cannot comprehend that. How can you now think you can comprehend the descension of Allah and how Allah Ta'ala descends? How can you think you can comprehend it? It's way above your mental capacity. That is something that is, like we said, way beyond the comprehension of the human being. That's why, like we talked about, put it on the scale that Imam Malik, that he used to say. What did Imam Malik say in that tremendous athar? That he said that the istiwa is known. The descension or the ascension of Allah is known. How Allah ascends is not known. Meaning that how the ascension of Allah is known. Meaning the general meaning is understood. That Allah ascends. The meaning is understood. How Allah ascended, not known. Faith in it is obligatory to ask about it. It's bid'ah, it's innovation. And we say the exact same thing about the descension of Allah. The descension of Allah is what? It's known. How Allah descends? Not known. Faith in it, ask about it, is innovation. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So these are affairs, like we said, Ya Ma'ish al-Ikhwa. The word Qayyum covers all these characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions. So that's the reason why this surah is considered the greatest surah in the Quran. Or the greatest ayah in the Quran, excuse me. The greatest ayah in the book of Allah. I'm glad you said something, because that would have been circulated around the internet. This word Qayyum. The word Qayyum, like we said, is comprehensive for all those meanings of Allah Ta'ala's actions. That's why it's considered the greatest ayah in the book of Allah subhanahu jalla fil ula. In his book subhanahu. Then Allah Ta'ala says in his book, Huwa al-Hayyul Qayyum, La ta'khudhuhu sinatu wa la nawm. Then Allah Ta'ala emphasized this affair of how tremendous He is and how powerful He is, Ta'ala, where He says, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Nothing takes Him of what is considered muqaddimat an-nawm, what is the introduction before sleep, which is drowsiness and being tired and weary and exhausted. Allah Ta'ala says, Sina means it is the introduction to sleep, which is exhaustion, weariness, tiredness, yawning, or what have you. Allah negates all that from Himself. As you'll find that the Christians, and they still utter this to this day, that Allah created the heavens and the earth and that which is between it, and then He rested. Allah refutes that nonsense in His book. Like we talked about, the Quran is filled with refutations against all falsehood. The Quran is filled with refutations against all type of nonsense. And from those refutations is in that ayah. Allah clearly says that He created the heavens and the earth, and He did not, and nothing of weariness or tiredness touched Him. He says it clearly in His book. He says, وَمَا خَلَقَنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ. In one ayah it says, or if you want to go back to the other one, He said, مَا مَسَّنَا مِن لُغُوبٍ, that we created the heavens and the earth and everything that was between it. Nothing of weariness and tiredness touched us. So Allah created the heavens and the earth and that which is between it. And He said clearly, exhaustion, weariness, tiredness, or becoming tired or needing rest, Allah Ta'ala is free from all of that what? Deficiencies. He creates the heavens and the earth, and He's still all dominant. And He's not like the human being that needs what? Needs rest. So Allah Ta'ala negated from Himself Sina, which is the introduction to sleep, to show and bring something that's the opposite. Like we said, these characteristics I'm going to talk about, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala negated from Himself these characteristics, which is characteristics of imperfection, which is what we talked about before, called as-sifat as-salbiyya. As-sifat as-salbiyya, meaning characteristics that Allah negates from Himself because it's characteristics of imperfection. It does not befit the deity that deserves to be worshipped, who is the creator and the all-dominant of the heavens and the earth. It does not befit Him that He had or become tired, He needs rest. And also what the Christians say, you'll find from some other falsehood that they say, that Allah Ta'ala had to dominate. There's always going to be a fight between the shaitan and Allah, or the devil and God. There's always going to be a constant fight between the God and the devil. There's no fight between Allah and the shaitan. Allah Ta'ala instantly can destroy the shaitan in the blink of an eye or less. That's all nonsense that Allah Ta'ala refutes in His book. That's why Allah Ta'ala refutes this falsehood in His book. Likewise, by showing when the shaitan disobeyed Him, shaitan, due to his arrogance, showed how weak he is and how stupid he is also. Because he was arrogant, but at the same time, he asked permission. It's like a person arguing with you, says, yeah, allow me to go outside. You just laughing. To let you know what? So when you do this, the one who's all dominant and powerful, Allah Ta'ala still gave him a what? He gave him permission, as it says in the story, which lets you know that shaitan was still affirming and showing what? Ultimately, you are the most powerful more than me. And I'm asking permission to do this. And Allah granted it to him out of some infinite wisdom in order to test His servants in this dunya. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So there's no battle between shaitan and Allah. Allah Ta'ala has proven and shown us, and shaitan has affirmed this himself, that Allah is dominant and powerful over him. And He can do and destroy everything in the heavens and the earth. And as Allah Ta'ala said in His book about Jesus, the son of Mary, and His mother. As He says, وَمَنْ يَمْلِكُ مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا إِنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُهْلِكَ الْمَسِيحَ بَنَ مَرْيَمَ وَأُمُّهُ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, He says, who can own from Allah anything? If Allah wanted to destroy Jesus, the son of Mary, and His mother, and everything in the heavens and the earth, who can stop Him? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that shows that Allah Ta'ala is the all-dominant, the all-powerful. And that Allah negates certain characteristics of His perfection in order to what? To affirm the complete opposite of it. Allah doesn't negate anything from Himself of imperfection except that he's proving the absolute complete of what he negated. For example, that Allah negates from himself sina, weariness or tiredness, in order to affirm absolute perfect ability and self-sufficiency. Meaning that Allah is all able and at the same time, absolute perfect izzah, and absolute perfect qudra, absolute perfect sultan, absolute perfect ability, absolute perfect domination, absolute perfect power, absolute perfect what? Life and authority. So Allah negated from himself the introduction of sleep in order to affirm the completeness of what we negated, which is what? These characteristics. Allah Ta'ala negates from himself these imperfections in order to affirm for himself the perfection, the complete perfection of what he negated from himself. So the opposite of what? The opposite of sleep or feeling tired is absolute perfect what? Ability. Absolute perfect power. Absolute perfect strength. Absolute perfect might. Subhanahu Jalla fil Ula. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Allah negates these characteristics of imperfection from himself to affirm the complete opposite of it. Allah Ta'ala then negates from himself not only exhaustion and weariness and or being tired, he also negated from himself sleep itself. Because sleep also likewise opposes the meaning of hay. Being sleepy or being sleep opposes the meaning of being all perfect in one's life. Because we know sleep, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, is akhul maut. We know that sleep is the brother of death. Sleep is the brother of death. Rather, it's called the minor death. Is it clear what I'm saying? As we know that sleep is the minor death. And we know that the major death is death. So the fact that Allah Ta'ala negated from himself sleep in order to affirm the completeness of what he negated, which is what? Absolute everlasting life. Absolute everlasting life. And being perfect in his awareness, and being perfect the same thing in his ability, in his domination, and in his power and his might. Allah Ta'ala negates from himself characteristics of perfection in order to affirm the complete opposite of what Allah negated. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Then Allah Ta'ala affirms from himself that everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to him. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. When Allah Ta'ala affirms that he owns everything in the heavens and the earth, he follows that up from what he owns is what we're talking about in this chapter, which is what, everyone? Ash-Shafa'ah. So in the ayah that he says, from what he owns, for verily what belongs to Allah, what he owns is everything in the heavens and the earth. From those things that Allah owns, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ. Who is the one that can what? Can intercede except by his permission. لا يشفع من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. Allah Ta'ala, he can give somewhat of enrichment, even though Allah Ta'ala what? Has the characteristic of self-sufficiency and enrichment, meaning he is rich, meaning complete enrichment, not needing the creation. But Allah Ta'ala does give some type of self-sufficiency to certain people from the creation, some type, even though it is what? It is what is still imperfect. Because we know Allah Ta'ala makes certain people what? Rich in their money, and some of them even what? Impoverished. He gives certain people of ghina. However, you'll find that Ahl Ilm even mention to say, even though Allah will grant from the creation some type of enrichment, still in actuality they still poor. Why? Every time a person becomes more rich and grows in more money, you become even more in need of Allah. You become even more and more in need of Allah. As you become more what? More rich, you need more help. And you need more what? Reliance in Allah. Tabaraka wa ta'ala. So the fact that some type of enrichment, as we said, ultimately it's still considered what? Deficient. No matter how much one grows in money and wealth, you still need Allah. And you will always need Allah. Why? Because al-faqru fina faqrun dhati. Because us being in a state of need always is a characteristic that sticks with us. Al-faqru fina faqrun dhati. Wasfun dhati lil khalq. For verily the characteristic of need, or the characteristic of being in need, or being poor in regards to our Lord, is a characteristic that clings with the human being always. It never leaves the human being. The human being is always in need of something, no matter what it is. The human being is always in need of food. He's always in need of water. He's always in need of rest. He's always in need of going to the bathroom. He's always in need of children. He's in need of women. He's in need. That's a characteristic of the human being. Always needing. That's why, like we said, no matter how much you grow in what is considered enrichment, the more you grow in enrichment, in riches and wealth, the more you're going to be in need of Allah ta'ala. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So the shafa'a ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, so everyone knows now why this ayah is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah. This ayah is the greatest ayah in the book of Allah, based upon what we just mentioned in the explanation. And that's why Allah ta'ala, or that's why the Prophet ﷺ had informed Abu Munzir, rather he confirmed Abu Munzir, Ubay ibn Ka'b had mentioned of this ayah being the greatest ayah in the book of Allah, Jalla fil Ula. Is it clear what I'm saying, Caden? Tongue-tied. طيب. So now if you find in the ayah that it says, who can intercede except by his what? Except by his permission. How long have we been going? How much time? Oh, did you set the clock, Amir? No, you didn't. What did he say? 15 minutes. Gee. طيب. Allah Ta'ala says in his book about ash-shafa'ah. It says that no one owns the shafa'ah or can intercede with him except by his permission. When Allah Ta'ala says, Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u, who is the one? It's a question, but at the same time, it contains the meaning of what? A challenge. It's a form of a question, but it's a what? It's a challenge and it's a negation at the same time. It's showing a challenge and it's showing a negation at the same time. Of course, no one can intercede with Allah Ta'ala except by his permission. And also likewise, the intercession of the creation. Whereas, for example, as we talked about before, a shafa'ah that takes place between the creation is to show that from the weakness of the creation is that one who's an intercessor can go to the one who grants the intercession, meaning from the creation, and he can affect him or persuade him if his speech is decorated, or maybe might have some type of leverage over him. Maybe he did a favor for him before. Maybe he might have did something before and he owes him something. So that was the shafi' or the shafi' will go to the one who grants the intercession, meaning the king or the one who's in charge, and can persuade him to do something he doesn't want to do. Am I right or wrong? To go to him and ask him, and maybe play a mind game with him, tell him that you know the favor I did for you before. You owe me one. Or he can say to him that what? Or he can use some type of decorated speech to rock him or shift him, or to sway him, or to persuade him. All these meanings are what? Are impossible as it pertains to Allah Ta'ala. No one can persuade Allah, or no one can say, oh Allah, you owe me a favor. Or Allah, you can persuade Allah. All these affairs and these meanings are mumtani'ah. They're impossible and they're rejected and they're negated from Allah Ta'ala. In contrast to the one from the creation, then they might even agree. Him and the person who needs the intercession and go to the king or the one that has status and affect him. Or maybe he might even feel sorry for him, meaning the king. All these, like we said, these meanings are all negated as it pertains to Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That's only for the creation, not for the creator. Allah Ta'ala has negated this from Himself because they are all characteristics of imperfection. As regards to what to show His awe, His dominance, and His might, who's the one that can intercede with Him except by His permission? So you'll find this ayah is affirming there is a type of shafa'ah. And we said that the type of shafa'ah that's been affirmed is only for the what? The people of Tawheed. Where Allah Ta'ala is pleased with the one who's interceding and the one who's being interceded for. And Allah is only pleased with the people of Tawheed. So Allah Ta'ala, His pleasure has to be, first of all, the shafa'ah will only take place by Allah's permission on the day of resurrection. And secondly, Allah Ta'ala will only grant the shafa'ah for the al-shafi' wal-mashfu'i lah. That Allah Ta'ala will only give permission for the shafi', meaning the ones interceding is from the people of Tawheed, and the one is being interceded for is only from the people of Tawheed. Not the people of disbelief. This is only a privilege for the people of monotheism. No one, no more, no less. This is only a privilege for them, not for the one who has left it. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? The conditions of the acceptance of the shafa'ah, as we talked about, as we discussed this before, the shafa'ah that is negated is a shafa'ah shirkiyah. The shafa'ah which is of shirk, of polytheism. Meaning that one seeks the shafa'ah from other than Allah. If one seeks the shafa'ah from other than Allah, then that is the shafa'ah that is of polytheism that can nullify your Islam. That shafa'ah is what? Prohibited, and it is not acceptable with Allah. Which is called a shafa'ah shirkiyah. The polytheistic type of way of what? Or the polytheistic intercession. That intercession is an intercession that's sought from other than Allah. That you raise your hands in dua, or you go to the grave of one who's dead and you whisper to it, be an intercede for me on the day of resurrection. I'm asking you, please, on the day of resurrection, intercede for me. Save me on the day of resurrection when we are raised. Whether it be the messenger of Allah or whether it be someone who is what? Passed away. If you ask this person who's dead, or even ask the person alive, and go to them and say, intercede for me on the day of resurrection. This is something that is fully incorrect, and Islam came to oppose it and demolish it. Rather, the only one who you ask for the shafa'ah is Allah. No one knows that. No more, no less. Or no one knows less. Only ask Allah Ta'ala for the shafa'ah, because He's the one that owns it. So if you own something, why would you ask it for someone for other that doesn't? Why would you ask someone else who does not own it for something that he doesn't own, which isn't in his possession? Doesn't make any sense. So you would ask the one who fully owns it. And you would say, oh Allah, allow Muhammad, our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, to intercede for me. That is correct. Or you can make the dua after the adhan, as we said. As Allah Ta'ala has legislated on the tongue of the Messenger of Allah, that we say after the adhan, where Allah when the Messenger of Allah said, whoever says after the adhan, Allahumma rabba hadi da'wat al-tamma wa salat al-qa'ima ati Muhammad al-wasila wal-fadila wa ba'athu maqaman mahmud alladhi wa'ata. Except that Allah, the Prophet ﷺ, whoever makes this dua after the adhan, halat lahu shafa'ati. His shafa'ah has become, my shafa'ah has become halal for him. But notice in that dua, you're asking Allah for the shafa'ah, not the Messenger of Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. When Allah Ta'ala mentions, next part of the ayah. This is the next ayah, if everyone looks in their books. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, in Surah An-Najm, then we'll stop here inshallah. وَكَمْ مِن مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ أَن يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَيَرْضَى. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, in Surah An-Najm, He says, well, how many angels that are in the heavens, that their intercession will not benefit anything in the least, except after Allah gives permission for whom He wills and who He's pleased with. First, the number one, before we close out, we said that this ayah, number one, is affirming the existence of the angels. The angels exist. And we know that angels are from the affairs of the unseen. That they truly exist. That they exist and they're from the affairs of the unseen. Not only that, Allah Ta'ala says where they are. Said that there are angels in the heavens. So they're in the what? Fis samawat. So Allah Ta'ala talks about that and specifies a certain group of angels. Why in this ayah, in this context, did Allah specify angels in the heavens? Why, everyone? Due to their high status they have with Allah. Those angels that are in the heavens, that glorify Allah's praise, all have a high status with Him. And despite of that high status that they possess, no matter how close they are to Allah, their intercession does not benefit anything. Except with what? Except by Allah's permission. And if Allah wills for that will for them to intercede, and who He's pleased with. This ayah clearly, firmly shows what, everyone, before we stop, that there will be an intercession by the angels. So the angels also will intercede on the day of resurrection. So this ayah clearly shows that Allah will allow the angels to intercede for certain people. And those people are the people of Tawheed, the people of Sunnah, the people of Iman, the people of the truth. And certain Muslims that we said of what will be from deviance, of what Allah will allow to them to enter if the hellfire, if He wills, where they will have to be purified of the sin that they committed, of some type of deviation in their belief system. Now, because we said that bid'ah or innovation of the belief system is a type of fisk. It's a type of sin. If it doesn't remove you from the fold of Islam, or else it can land one in the hellfire, where he had to be purified, and he'll be from those deviant sects, who the Messenger of Allah clearly said that they would be what? From those 72 sects of his ummah that will enter hell, all of them are 73 sects, are 73 sects of his ummah. 72 of them are in hell, and one is the victorious sect. They will be in the hellfire, because the Messenger of Allah said they're from his ummah still. However, they fell into something of what? Of some type of discrepancy in their belief system, where they had to be purified from. So deviation in one's belief system is not something small. It's something tremendous. That it can earn one to be in the hellfire momentarily, if he's not careful. That's the reason why you'll find that Ahl Sunnah warn against bid'ah and its people, and also likewise its beliefs. Because its beliefs are the most wicked of affairs. Because like we said, one dying in that state is very dangerous. However, like we said before, we're talking about the shafa'ah. The shafa'ah of the malaika, like we said, will be for the people of Iman and the people of Tawheed and the people of the Sunnah. They are the ones that deserve the shafa'ah. The shafa'ah of the malaika that will take place for them. So that clearly shows that there is a shafa'ah of the angels. So there's a shafa'ah of the angels, just like there's a shafa'ah of the righteous, and there's shafa'ah of the prophets and the messengers, and the shafa'ah of the afrat of the little children who didn't reach puberty, and other than the other intercessions that will take place on the day of resurrection. But this ayah clearly shows what, everyone? That there is an intercession for who? That will be for the angels. The angels will intercede for certain people on the day of resurrection. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? But we'll stop here, inshallah. Is there any questions about the lesson? Tafadhal, Abdullah. Ghina. Not ghina. 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 Ghina, it's like enrichment, being rich. Or you could say enrichment, ghina. It also means self-sufficiency. It will be self-sustaining, self-sufficiency. Or independent of any need. Huh? Rida is being pleased. 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 Ended right on time. Huh? Oh, that's the 10-minute warning. So that means I have extra 10 minutes. Is there? I think I hear a sister on the sister side. Is there any questions from the sisters? I don't think there is. I guess, sister, if there isn't any, knock, because I can't hear from them. They said no. Tayyib, any questions for the Jamar? Closest one. Absolutely. Allah being close to you than your jugular vein, meaning His knowledge. Meaning His knowledge and His sight and His hearing and His awareness. If the knowledge of Allah, of knowing about you and everything is going on with you, and knowing what's going on inside of you, if that's not closeness, then what is? And despite of that, He's above the arsh. But this is not closeness, then what is? Rather, you'll find that Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami used to say that having more knowledge about you and yourself, what's going on, more than yourself, even though your friend is right next to you and you are in your own body, that's more in depth than one being next to you by him, meaning by himself, his actual self being next to you. If knowledge of having all awareness or all knowledge about yourself is not considered a closeness, that's the greatest of closeness, then what is? Despite that Allah Ta'ala is still being above the arsh. His knowledge of you and aware of you and having knowledge about what's going on with you is more in depth than a person being right next to you. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Even though Allah is above the arsh. Complete knowledge and awareness is even more greater than just one just being right next to you. So that's the closeness in which he was discussing. And that hadith is understood likewise like that. He's closer to you than your jugular vein, meaning as far as in the knowledge and awareness. And him all hearing everything and seeing everything. But not in his essence. That's agreed upon that Allah is above the arsh, above the heavens. That's an affair that's agreed upon. It's agreed upon. No, that's agreed upon not only in the Kitaab and Sunnah, that's agreed upon with all the prophets and the messengers. There's not a prophet or messenger except they all believe that Allah was above. Every single last one of the prophets and the messengers believe Allah was above. That's a belief not only of the Prophet ﷺ, the greatest of all prophets, and a belief of the Sahaba. That's a belief of all the prophets and messengers. And it's not only is the belief of the prophets and the messengers, it's a belief of the angels. So why would you oppose a belief which is a belief of all the prophets and the messengers and the beliefs of the angels? The angels believe Allah is above the heavens. So when you come down and say, no, Allah is everywhere, so now you oppose the belief of the angels. Because the angels even know at the time, at a point in time in the day, they ascend. They ascend. So that's clearly to show that they know where their Lord is, that He's above. If Allah was everywhere, why does it say in the hadith that the angels ascend to Allah at the time for Fajr and the time of Asr? Showing He's above, clearly. So that's something that's what? Established by all the prophets, all the messengers, all the angels. It's more than that. Not only that, they go by the ayahs that are frank in far as Allah being above and what necessitates things that ascend or descend. Things that ascend and descend also is a form of evidence of proof that Allah is above. Because why do these affairs have to descend if Allah is not above? Why does these affairs have to ascend if Allah is not above? Why does the angels have to ascend if Allah is not above? Why did Jibreel have to descend with the revelation if Allah is not above? Where's all these heavens and these earths that the seven heavens? They're all around us? And why is all these heavens that have distances of the distance of what Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, of 500 years between each one of the seven heavens? Where is all this distance? Where? Where is it? Around us? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Where's all these angels that the inhabitants, there's a prophet ﷺ clearly said all these narrations that we've been covering, that there are certain inhabitants in each heaven, one being on top of each other. Where is all this? You have to be doing some major distortion, deviance in order to what? Take all these texts and erase the correct meaning and put or incorporate in it some type of deviation. And not only this is an affair of all the affair of the prophets and the messengers, it's also even a natural disposition and inclination of the human being. If a human being was left all alone in a remote place, far distance, and he was raised without anything that will alter his natural state as a human being, and he was left alone in the island or in a desolate place or remote distance place where none of the outside influences of this world affects his belief, he will naturally know that Allah exists. He will naturally know that Allah deserves to be worshipped, and he will direct his worship above him. Naturally. Because that's in his natural disposition. However, the outside influences and the corrupt shayateen come and alter his belief. So it's an outside influence that come and change it, distort it. But if a human being or a baby was just left by itself and it was raised without any outside influence, it would naturally know Allah exists, naturally know that Allah deserves to be worshipped, and he would direct his worship to what's above him. Naturally. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? G. Anything else about the class? No, also the jinns are sin too. In order to steal that which is heard or decreed from the individuals in the earth. So the jinn even know. So the jinn know, shayateen know, the angels know, Allah knows about himself, and those who have knowledge from the prophets and the messengers and those who follow them know where Allah is. The only people that have answered this call is the call of the shayateen. As we talked about before, all you'll find that the calls that are deviated are all calls of the shayateen. That Allah is everywhere, or that Allah is not in a place, or that Allah, or the Quran is created. As we talked about the athar, that showed that these are from the calls and the da'wah and the calls of shaitan. Like, for example, the Quran being created was a call to shaitan. The shaitan started. Then he inspired his awliya. He inspired those from the Mu'tazila, that the heads of them was Bishr Mirrisi. As we talked about what happened with the jinn, his name was Abu Murrah. He was a shaitan. And Abu Murrah said to Yahya Zimmi, he said it clearly to him. He said that I left a khalifa in Maru, or the areas in the, let me get to the line of where Maru is. I left a khalifa for myself in the Maru, calling the people to the creation of the Quran. So Yahya Zimmi said to him, what do you believe? He said, I believe the Quran is the speech of Allah. Yahya Zimmi asked this jinn or the shaitan. He said, okay, you left a khalifa, Bishr Mirrisi, to call the people to deviation. He said, okay, so you called them to this belief that the Quran is created. Who do you believe? He says, for me, I believe that the Quran is the speech of Allah and it's not created. So all these calls that are absolute, don't make any sense, are all calls of the what? The shayateen. Anything else? طيب stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.